Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our April 5th, 2022 Board of County Commissioners meeting. We will start our meeting off with our invocation from Reverend Neil Singh from the Trinity United Methodist Church of Jensen Beach, and then we will follow that by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please rise. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to see all of you again. Let's join together in heart, mind, and spirit. Creator from whom we all arise, giver of all life, provider of all things and source of all that is good and kind and loving, thank you for the gifts of life, liberty, and the impetus to pursue our happiness in various ways. As many of us celebrate our holidays in the coming weeks, we pray that you will lead us to see that what we all have in common far outweighs our differences. Remove from our hearts all preconceptions and prejudgments and resentments about one another. Instead, fill our hearts with a desire to regard one another as neighbors and treat them accordingly. Open our eyes that we might see the good in one another, and open our hands that we might join them together in peace. Loving one, even as the world cries out with war and pain and disease and uncertainty, may we hold on to the vision of life that you have for us, that out of many you have made us one. Amen. I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this morning we have an additional item, Department 3, consider language to be used in an ordinance calling for a referendum on a 1/2 cent local government infrastructure sales tax. We also have two consent polls this morning. Item 1, contracts that meet the threshold for the board approval, polled by Commissioners Hetherington and Hurd. Consent item 6, adopt a proclamation celebrating the 95th anniversary of Lesser Landy and Smith, polled by Commissioner Hurd. We have our 9:05 preset, which will be our public, and then we'll have 5:05 or whichever comes first by the end of the meeting. We will have today, combined with our commission meeting, we will have our CIP first round of discussion. That will be coming following the end of the regular agenda. With that, sorry?
What? Just going to make a motion.
Oh, okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, with consent 1 and number 6 pulled, and additional item departmental number 3, I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All is opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's take up our public first. We have our first public speaker this morning is Mr. Pat Arena. Following Mr. Arena will be Steve Williams. Mr. Arena, come on up. Sure. To the microphone. Good morning.
Pat Arena, Jensen Beach, Commissioners, good morning. With all due respect, what I see going on in Martin County is an absolute nightmare. You went from a county with character to a slash and burn mentality that has one set of land rules for single-family homes and another set of rules for big money corporations. Martin County, please don't lose your character. Character is doing the right thing. I had 5 coyotes run across my front lawn looking for refuge. They ran into Beacon 21 Woods. That also is on the calendar for development. No concerns to relocate wildlife, no concerns for the people of Martin County. But God forbid if there's a turtle on private property, that's a different set of rules. How many turtles have we buried in the last few years? Stop the hypocrisy. Osprey Reserves wasn't just wetlands, it was land underwater buried by 8 feet of fill. Oh, you say that's Stewart. Well, environmental issues don't know political boundaries. It's either right or wrong, and it's still in Martin County. We are residents of Martin County for 41 years. My wife's brother bought a piece of property 37 years ago in Sugar Hill, hoping to retire by his sister. His taxes are over $3,000 a year. Now he wants to build on the last lot in his section, and he is told it is wetlands. They say it may cost him tens of thousands of dollars and take years going through several agencies. And if he gets approval, there may be severe building restrictions that go along with it. And if there's any restrictions, there will be a lawsuit. And I will be fired because I was hired to prevent a lawsuit, get this issue resolved. Pace 2000 Homes told the owner, Robert Aronson, that his land became wetlands because Martin County did not maintain the drainage swales. I would think you would want to get this issue resolved as soon as possible. His adjacent neighbors have large homes, swimming pools, and guest houses. All this may not be permitted on this lot if we go through this ridiculous process. Use common sense. There's nothing there but sugar sand, vines, and pepper trees. The same ground that's on the rest of that section in Sugar Hill. We are asking for this last lot to be grandfathered in. We hate the thought of going to court, so we're asking Martin County to use common sense and proclaim carrot to expedite and resolve this issue. Please have someone call me on this issue, and my contact information is on the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Steve Williams. Mr. Williams, Amber D'Angelo.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Steve Williams. I'm a resident of Poinciana Gardens locally. During your board meeting of March the 9th, you approved the
Sure.
final site plan.
If you can speak into your mic, please.
Thank you. If you approved the final site plan of MacArthur Golf's West Golf Course. During their presentation, they pointed out exactly where the access road for construction would be located. You approved that plan. During the board meeting of October 5, you unanimously approved a consent resolution, NCST 10, that I don't believe you would have approved had you known the details and the impact of your decision on the residents of Poinciana Gardens. It started off with a misleading title, not fully explaining the strings attached. It failed to show the true intent to move the construction access road for this new golf course. The misinformation continued in the agenda item summary. It points out this new road that would go from Federal Highway to Circle and then go through the Poinciana Storm Treatment Area onto MacArthur's property, or onto MacArthur's golf course. The misinformation was in the failure to be transparent. Several key omissions. Number one, it didn't point out that it was moving the construction access road that you previously approved. It did not address the volume of material. The Public Works Department has said that 72,000 cubic feet of sand will be transported down this road. It's been estimated, and I don't have a calculation exact, but I've been told that's about 900 truckloads that'll make a single trip in and a single trip out. Additionally, you weren't told, and it wasn't discussed, what the time frame would be. MacArthur Golf Course themselves say that this could continue, and they're being optimistic, through to November. Public Works says they have up to 2 years to do this project. Why move the construction road from MacArthur Golf? The stated reason in the agenda item summary was to, quote, avoid impact to golfers on the existing East Golf Course, end quote. You're allowing children and families who live in Poinciana are not involved in any way to MacArthur Golf to be impacted, but not their own members. The result of your decision is the quality of life for families in Poinciana Gardens will be impacted. Their homes will not be a place of solitude.
Sir, your time's up. Thank you.
Sir.
I only need a few seconds.
No, your time's up, sir. Sorry.
Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Beg your pardon. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amber D'Angelo. I've actually come to talk about two initiatives I'm working on. The first one being that I'd like to start the conversation on changing the ordinance to allow for backyard chickens. Currently, chickens are only allowed in areas zoned for agriculture. Unfortunately, this leaves out a lot of people who would like to keep chickens for many beneficial reasons and actually have the acreage to do it responsibly and properly, where their neighbors wouldn't be bothered at all. I myself have had neighbors who have owned chickens, and it was never a bother to me or any of our other neighbors. There was actually a petition 5 years ago to change this ordinance for the county, while there were talks about allowing backyard chickens in the city of Stewart. Most people who were in support of the petition stated things like, of course you should be allowed to do what you want to do on your property as long as it's not bothering others. And I think most people would agree. I wrote out some more information on the benefits of chickens, proper handling procedures for disease prevention, common misconceptions, as well as some ideas for regulations that I would like to hand out or email to our county commissioners. My other initiative that I'm working on is a website called knowyourleader.org. So I think most of us have noticed over the years a breakdown in our culture concerning government and our elected leaders. There's been a loss of respect towards those elected, as well as sometimes between those elected. With all that, there lies a question of, will it ever get better? Can we ever do better? While working through these questions in my head, as well as knowing from my faith that we're called to love others, I realized that the answer is that, to love others. So how do we do this in our government? We need to get to know who our elected officials are, not just their political stances, but who they are as people. Through this, we start to show compassion and understanding because we're more aware of the humanity in us all. So Know Your Leader is a website where there will be written interview questions to get to truly know who are our leaders better. This is in the beginning stages, and I of course want to start with my home county. I hope that if you like this idea, you'll participate in filling out the questions and or giving me feedback on the project in general. So I'd like to also hand out or email our county commissioners more information on that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Can I hand it?
I
have
give
some
it
papers.
to
Thank you.
Amber wins the fastest talker ever award.
I didn't want to get cut off. I hope you got it all.
We did.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Robert. Is it Shorts?
There's some copies there.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Robert Schertz. I'm on the Board of Directors at the Road to Victory Military Museum, and I come here today with an invitation to come and see us, explore us. Our motto is preserving history and honoring veterans. Not only do we do that, we're a nonprofit organization right in Stipman Park across from the middle school between the tennis courts. We've been doing that since 2007 when I did the initial speech introducing Abram Erzik, who brought the first tank into Bastogne. And as we come close to Memorial Day, it's time for us to reflect and honor those who have given the greatest sacrifice. And I just want to invite everybody here to come and visit us and be a part of the history that we're keeping alive as we're teaching kids history. We're also teaching them skills as we restore vehicles, military vehicles and that kind of thing, and bring them into the fold. My friend Ray will be talking a little more about the museum. Once again, you're all invited to come and visit us and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Ray Grasulo.
Last time I came up here, I didn't know which way to face. Maybe I know which way to look. Thank you, everybody. My name's Ray Giasulo, your past commissioner for veterans. Unfortunately, I had a death in my family. Both my parents I lost in November, so I did resign, but I'll be back with you guys by next year again. I thought it was best. The reason I'm basically here today is we have a gem in the center of Stewart, which is also Martin County. We are looking for space. We totally outgrew where we are. You have a packet in front of you, cruise through it in the future to see what's there. We have stuff in storage we can't even display, which is from 1945 on. We have Revolutionary. We technically even have more than the SEAL Museum has. And the SEAL Museum gets over 28,000 visitors within a 5-month period. We're lucky if we're getting 20 on a Saturday. We're all volunteers, no one gets paid. I'd like an opportunity to work with you somehow to get on the agenda, because I know sunshine laws, the way they are, you can't talk to each other. Even though I've spoken with some of you commissioners, and you know what we have, you've been there before, you've seen it. There is a firehouse that you just put up for auction, which is going to be Station 33 out in Hope Sound. We went through it, we looked at it. It would be a perfect opportunity for Martin County and ourselves to grow our museum and the veterans of Martin County. So I hope you would consider that, and somebody get a hold of me, tell me how to get on the agenda, and I'll bring you all the information you want. Hopefully we could work something out to grow together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thomas Bausch. Following Tom is Tom Pine.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Bausch. I live in Stewart. I'm here to voice my concerns by this proposal for a half-cent sales tax increase. This year, the COLA has increased to 5.9%. This has been the largest COLA increase in decades. This is such a boon to all the senior citizens who collect Social Security and use that as part of their living income. The previous year was only 1.3, so you can see how terrific this has been a boon to the senior citizens. This tax would take another bite out of that apple of 5.9% increase. And I just think this is unfair to them. They finally got a shot at getting a nice, I would call it not a bonus, but an increase to pay for this terrible inflation that's going on. You see the gas prices are anywhere from $4 to $5 a gallon, depending what you buy, either regular or diesel. Go to the store, supermarket, look at the price of food. Just today I read an article about insurance increases, and I didn't realize they increased so terrifically over the year. I mean, home insurance coverage is in 15-20% increase. I mean, that's fantastic. Not good fantastic. Another issue, the big land buying state program is Florida Forever. Budget for this year is proposed to be only $100 million. That's not going to buy a heck of a lot. And if it does, if this 2508 stays and the rural lands gets the largest increase up to $300 million, that's just easements. That's not purchases. We have contributed in Martin County a tremendous amount of money to dock stamps. We're not going to get a nickel of that. I don't know where our state representatives are up there. Things have to change. I really think you have to consider the impact on our senior citizens of an increase of their sales tax. It's just going to impact them dramatically. Thank you.
Mr. Bausch, the last speaker form I have, and if anybody else would like to speak in public, please get the bailiff a speaker form, is Mr. Pine. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Tom Pine. I've been a resident of Martin County for nearly 50 years. At the March 22nd, 2022 County Commission meeting, it was loud and clear to me that we, the taxpayers of Martin County, can no longer trust our local government. The revelation became very clear when one commissioner pulled an item from the consent agenda. The item pulled was a sweetheart deal to rent 320 4 square feet of office space in Palm City Civic Center to the Palm City Chamber of Commerce for $1 a month for 10 years with 5 years extension. A similar scheme had already been approved in Jensen Beach for the Jensen Beach Chamber of Commerce. I don't know the details because it was probably hidden in the previous consent agenda at a previous meeting. According to the county, the definition of consent agenda, these items are considered routine and acted in one motion. So these type of expenditures that are considered routine in Martin County, sweetheart deals with favorite friends, sick greed. A few months ago, a majority of commissioners approved a special raise for 2 senior staff. Are they the ones that came up with this scheme? So they should be charged with a crime instead of receiving a raise for violating the public trust. At this meeting, consent number 2 is the warrant list confirming $19,712,447 in county expenditures between March 5th and March 22nd, 2022, without identifying the payees of the purpose or the payments. Just helping out a few more friends? I've been told not too many years ago this commission met 4 times a month. That's when we had open government. Today our local government hides as much as they can, with 2 meetings a month, often lasting only 3 to 4 hours from we the taxpayers, which is sick. Thank you, Tom Pine.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Will those? Oh, got it. Thank you. Mr. Zanino, did you want to speak at public? Because you also had one in for the sales tax item.
I'm going to speak on that, but if I could speak now, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, by all means.
I won't, I have to leave. I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Tony Zanino. I'm here as a representative of the Guardians of Martin County. And I'd like to speak on the proposed referendum for the half-cent local government sales tax for the purchase of conservation properties, which is the item 22-0726 on your agenda. The Guardians feel that the preservation of these conservation properties is critical to preserving the Martin County difference. The Guardians have embraced the County Commissioner's suggestion to help with this referendum. Towards that end, the Guardians have contracted and are prepared to retain Lori Weigel of New Breach Strategies excuse me, to advise and conduct the research to determine the success of this proposed referendum and to advise the county on the language to be used in the ordinance and the ballot. Lori Weigel has worked in a similar manner in Martin County, I think in 2006. The Guardians are raising funds to conduct this survey and hope to have the results by the second meeting in May of the Board of County Commissioners. The Guardians would encourage the Board of County Commissioners to pursue the half-cent sales tax referendum for 10 years to purchase the critically conservation properties in the 4 designated areas which it has determined to be important for Martin County. The Guardians would also like to recommend that a land acquisition selection committee be approved, as has been done in the past, to review and make recommendations to the Commission to determine which properties within these 4 areas would be purchased, and that the funds be distributed in an equitable manner to each of these 4 areas. The Guardians are ready and willing to pursue this survey and to report back to the Board of County Commissioners the results of the survey as soon as complete. And we'd like to thank the Commissioners for suggesting this referendum and for excuse me, acknowledging the importance of these conservation properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was the last public speaker forum I have. Anybody else wish to address this at this point? Seeing none, we'll come back to the board. The first thing we have up before we, well, let's go to, do you mind if we go to proclamations before we
Of course.
do comment?
It's always
Um,
useful.
I understand.
You're a good guy.
Just trying to,
You're doing great.
thank you for your support. The first item we have up this morning will be the Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Ms. Beaupre?
Good morning, Commissioners. Laura Beaupre for the record. Public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our firefighters and law enforcement officers, monitoring their activities by radio, providing information, and ensuring their safety. In recognition of Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 10th through the 16th, the Board acknowledges the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe. And here we have Sheriff William Schneider, along with a lot of great folks here to accept.
Sure.
He's like, okay, I didn't know it was me. Want to do it in the well? Yeah.
Whatever you guys would like to do.
Oh, we'll take a quick.
All right, let's do photo first, and then we'll.
Doug,
Yeah, we're probably gonna have
you're the one giving them the proclamation. Now get in that picture. Represent us. This guy's going to hit his head on the TV. Your head on that
This is the
TV.
first time they've ever done this.
There it is.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning.
Good morning. If I could just say thank you, when the chairman's back, with his permission. Commissioners, thank you so much. I'm sure our firefighter brothers might have something to say, but we're certainly honored by your proclamation and by your support. I say this all the time. Unfortunately, most people's first interaction with law enforcement or fire is the 911 telecommunications personnel, and they stand in that gap between absolute disaster and rescue. And whether it's a disoriented person who's not sure what's going on in their home, or it's a lost child, or God forbid, somebody screaming on the phone, there's somebody, my child's in the pool, they're not breathing. They face a job that most of us wouldn't want. And their ability to multitask, take information from the call takers on the desk to the telecommunications professional who's putting it out on the air, whether it's fire rescue, whether it's the sheriff's office, it's all the same. It's heroic that they do it day in and day out without complaint. They're some of the best people in the world. So on behalf of the Martin County Sheriff's Office telecommunicators, thank you so much for this honor.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
That was it?
Yeah. No. Just trying to understand the adjustment. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to accept this proclamation. This is my first time being a part of this experience. Coming from the field, you all have no idea what these telecommunicators have to go through. They are the voice behind the scenes. And when the people of the community call 911, they are the representation of Martin County that you would all expect to be there. And I think as the first of the first responders, it's a great opportunity to honor them for this week. So thank you.
Thank you.
one more picture.
One picture.
Get in there.
You heard the boss.
There you go.
Thank you all very much. Next proclamation we have up this morning is declaring National Public Health Week in Martin County, Florida.
The goal of public health is to empower individuals and communities to take responsibility for their own health by minimizing unhealthy behaviors, taking preventative measures, and making well-informed choices. In recognition of National Public Health Week, April 4th through 10th, the board encourages all citizens to take an active role in maintaining good health by opting for nutritious foods, participating in regular exercise, and pursuing healthy lifestyles. And here to accept, we have Carol Ann Vitani, Health Officer with the Florida Department of Health in Martin County.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I won't be long. I just wanted to, on behalf of our public health professionals who work every day to promote and protect health in our community, I'm truly delighted to accept today's proclamation in honor of National Public Health Week. From supporting moms and babies to assuring healthy environments, from responding to emergencies to promoting wellness and healthy lifestyles, public health touches our lives every day. The commitment and dedication of our local public health staff has never been more apparent than during these past 2 years as we worked collectively to respond to the pandemic by providing COVID-19 contact tracing and investigation, prevention information, testing, and vaccination. Our team worked through some unprecedented times, and I am incredibly proud of each and every one of them. But we couldn't have done this alone. And this pandemic showed the strength and perseverance of Martin County and the partnerships that have been developed over the years. I wish to extend my sincere thanks to all our community partners, including Martin County government, Martin County Sheriff's Department, Emergency Management, the City of Stuart, and the City of Stuart Police, Martin County School District, Cleveland Clinic, Martin Health, our nonprofit agencies, all our volunteers, and even our citizens here in Martin County. We couldn't have done this without everyone's teamwork and collaboration. It was through the power of this collaboration that we did achieve so much. So thank you again so much for this honor, for this proclamation today. Thank you. Thank you.
The next proclamation we have up this morning, we have declaring Alcohol Awareness Month in Martin County, Florida.
Alcohol abuse is a major public health concern that affects millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and in all communities that also has a huge medical, societal, and economic cost. In recognition of April 2022 as Alcohol Awareness Month, the board encourages all citizens to join in efforts to diminish alcohol and substance abuse within the youth population of the Treasure Coast, and commends the Martin County Community Action Coalition for taking a leading role and the volunteers who provide valuable assistance in these efforts. And here to accept, we have Jeff Cadell, who's the program coordinator for the Martin County Community Action Coalition.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, and we really do appreciate you guys bringing some much-needed exposure to Alcohol Awareness Month. While vaping and marijuana use has kind of taken the focus away from youth alcohol consumption, the truth of the matter is it's still our biggest problem. It's still the drug most used by teens, and it's something we certainly can't turn our attention away from. It's also been one of the most widely used and deadliest drugs during the pandemic. It's estimated that over 99,000 people suffered from an alcohol-related death in 2020. So this is not an issue that's just fallen by the wayside as much as we've tried to make that happen. Now, for our part, the Martin County Community Action Coalition plans on doing a few things. We're going to be holding a youth summit here this month in April, it's an opportunity for teens to learn about the dangers of alcohol and some of the consequences that come with that. We're also going to be having a parent cafe where parents will learn about why it's important to teach their youth about the dangers of alcohol and why they really should wait till they're 21. We're going to be disseminating alcohol prevention materials throughout the county at local different events we're going to be doing in different spots around the county, as well as through our social media channels, and doing everything we can to make sure everybody's aware of the consequences and the potential harms of alcohol abuse. So, again, we want to thank you for your continued support, and have a great day.
And our last proclamation for the day is National Library Week.
Libraries offer opportunities for everyone to connect with new ideas and become their best selves through access to multimedia content, programs, classes, and books. Today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building, and everyone is welcome to their resources that are expanding to continue to meet the needs of the patrons and to adapt to our changing world. In recognition of National Library Week, April 3rd through the 9th, the board encourages all residents to connect with their library by visiting online or in person to access resources and services. And here to accept, we have Jennifer Salas, our library director for the Martin County Library System.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy National Library Week. We are requesting that all of our library users submit one of our annual customer satisfaction surveys. We use those responses to be able to improve our services. And while I have always appreciated our library staff, it wasn't until recently when I was helping for staff coverage on some of our public service desks, as well as some of our outreach events, that I truly appreciated how hard they work. So in recognition also today of National Library Workers Day, I hope you'll thank all of our library staff for the hard work that they do. Thank you.
The only thing I got is Hope Sound Chamber sponsors our Chow Down Hope Sound monthly, so this Friday, and it's turned into quite the thing at J.B. Reed Park. Friday night from 5 to 9. Come down. Visit Hope Sound.
Nice little PSA.
It rhymed.
Commissioner Heatherington.
Well, the thing I have is we have Honor Flight is going on their second flight. As you know, during COVID, they were postponed for over a year. So if anybody would like to greet them, they will be coming back into Palm Beach International Airport, the Guardians and the Veterans, about 7 p.m. So it's always a really nice nice greeting. This Saturday, April 9th. That's all.
And there's one more in May?
And then there will be May 21st.
I'd like
Yes.
to join that one.
May 21st. Do you happen to know, are they full? Meaning, do they have enough Guardians and all that?
No, I think they were still taking Guardians for May.
The May flight?
And they have not done the training, May 21st.
Okay, so for anybody that's not familiar, you can go online and look up Southeast Honor Flight, correct?
Correct.
And you should be able to sign up there, and it's truly one of the more amazing experiences that you'll ever go on in your life. You leave around 6 o'clock in the morning here, actually probably more like
Ooh, like
5
4
o'clock, 4 o'clock
3
here.
a.m. is what I remember.
And then you leave out of West Palm, we fly up to D.C. for the day and go to a series of memorials, have lunch, and then hop on the airplane and come back. And that seems like a very quick, easy snapshot. But it's an amazing, phenomenal day. So, and then if you can't do that, and if you can't be one of the Guardians, as Commissioner Heatherington said, greeting folks when they come back at Palm Beach Airport is equally as amazing, and it's absolutely fantastic how many people show up and welcome our veterans back. So thank you for that, Commissioner Heatherington. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. First, I'd say that being a guardian on the honor flight is probably one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life. So we only talked about it here for a brief moment, but if you're interested in something like that, it is a remarkable experience. So I would definitely highly recommend that. Two quick things. One, I have heard this conversation in the past, I think all of us have, in regards to backyard chickens. Being District 5 with Palm City and Palm City Farms, and have a district where a lot of folks have larger pieces of property, I would be interested in finding out what the criteria would be necessary. I understand people would initially think, well, that's not going to work, so we shouldn't do it. But I do believe that there are a lot of benefits to allowing people to do that, especially under these current economic times. I would prefer that we could make it an agenda item to discuss the pros and cons and what the rules and regulations could be for that versus just hearing it and not acknowledging it. So I'm interested in making that an agenda item to discuss backyard chickens. They don't have to be everywhere, but they can be in some places. I don't think that it should be nowhere. The next point that I'd like to make is I had a conversation with some of our folks, professionals in law enforcement, and I was unaware of the fact that our current restrictions for sexual predators and pedophiles and the like in Martin County, the restriction is currently set at 1,000 feet. They're not allowed to reside within 1,000 feet of schools, parks, and child care facilities, and that our regulations only allow it for certain sexual offenders that had taken place prior to 2004, and that the rules are sort of outdated because it doesn't take into consideration cyber predators and other things that are happening online. Indian River County, St. Lucie County, Okeechobee County, and dozens of other counties in the state of Florida have already increased that restriction to 2,500 feet. And Martin County is one of the few in the area, if not the only one in the area, that is still at 1,000 feet. Those other counties had put this new increased restriction in place in either 2004 or 2006. So we are well behind the 8 ball on that. And the reason I mention it is that, believe it or not, in those communities or the people that are advocating on their behalf understand that Martin County is only 1,000 feet. So I think we are artificially drawing a lot more of these types of individuals, and I'm not saying that they can't be rehabilitated and don't deserve a second chance. We're not saying that they can't live anywhere. We're just saying that 1,000 feet of these child facilities is too close. 2,500 feet away is still close, but that would also even the restrictions out in our region so that we're not becoming a haven for folks that have these issues in their past to come here. And so I would like to have an agenda item that would allow the sheriff and his team to come back to discuss the ramifications and the rules for this. So if our commissioners would agree, I would ask staff to bring that forward as an agenda item. And with that, I am done, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I just want to reassure Mr. Williams and the residents of Poinciana Gardens that your criticisms are falling on receptive ears. We are going to continue to work with you to make sure that that project has as little impact as possible, as little negative impact as possible upon your community. It's always our first goal to protect our existing residents. And if we're falling short, then we need to be educated so that we can do a better job. So we're going to continue to, I assume that people have visited with you? No. Okay, we'll make sure that some of our staff does. Also, I just wanted to say that I'm very pleased to notice on my way to work this morning that the first truckload of asphalt is being laid in Golden Gate. It's been a project that's been a sheer misery every day when I drive it. So the first lift of asphalt means that the project is nearing close. So that's very good news. Thank you.
That is good news.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I'm all set for this morning. Ms. Krista, do you have anything this morning? Ms. Woods? Okay. First item up we have this morning, public hearing item number 1. Oops, I'm sorry, let's do the poll. I'm sorry, can we do the polls first? Do we have everybody set up for that? Okay. First item is consent 1, contracts that meet the threshold for board approval. Good morning, Ms. Brotherton.
Oh, Mr.
We have Commissioner Heatherington and Hurd pulling this, so Commissioner Heatherington, you want to start?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just need to recuse myself from this item as it is being bid on by Ferrera Construction, to whom I'm an employee of. So I will be abstaining, and I've filed my Form 8B with the clerk.
Super.
Good morning, Christy Brotherton, Purchasing Manager. Item A1 is for the South Jensen Heights Stormwater Retrofit Northeast Elaine Street Outfall Project. This project is partially funded with ARPA funds, and staff is recommending that the board award the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which is Ferrera Construction Southern Division, in the amount of $735,925, and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute any and all documents related to this request. And one important thing to point out is with the ARPA funds, they encourage the use of local forces, and Ferrera Construction is a local contractor to Martin County. So that was a good win for us.
So do you want to,
I pulled the item because it's a great project, and I wanted to bring our attention to this project. It's a big project, and it's a very good one. We should be proud of it, and we should educate our public when we're doing good things as well as bad things.
okay, so we need a motion.
Want to do these separately?
We will need
Okay.
to,
Yeah, this
because
one.
Move approval of A1.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second for item A1. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Heatherington abstaining. And we need you want to go through the others? Is there?
No, the only one I wanted to pull A1, B1, and C1. So if you'd like, we can move approval of,
B1 and C1. Well, let's do the ones that you wanted to pull.
okay.
Item B1.
B1 I also wanted to pull because it's a very good project. It's one that's going to make a lot of residents very happy. So I just wanted to describe what we're going to be doing for 638 parcels.
Yes, this is a design contract for Coral Gardens, the engineering services and bidding services and through permitting. We think it's a good value for the price. They came in a little higher at about $794 or $764, negotiated that down a little bit, but we think it's a reasonable fee. It's in line with what we've had for engineering services for the other vacuum station projects. So we're looking forward to getting this in design phase and permitted, and hopefully start construction sometime next year to stay within our CIP schedule.
Sam, would you please share with us who you are?
Oh, yes, my apologies. My name is Sam Amerson. I'm the Utilities and Solid Waste Department Director. Thank you.
And may I add?
Sure,
Mr. Chair?
please.
And Sam, do you want to elaborate on some of the grant dollars that were appropriated for this project from the state?
Yes,
Ian, I think.
I'm trying to recall. I know for Rocky Point, we had 10 million.
We've applied, but we haven't received.
Right, and for Fort Salerno received $8 million award. For Coral Gardens, we've made a legislative appropriation for $8 million. And I haven't heard, Don, if there's news on that, but regardless, I think we'll move ahead and make formal application through DEP. That's been historically the process from those legislative requests. So we're optimistic. It seems like there's a lot of funding available through the governor's budget and for the federal fund, so we expect to be successful with that.
And Sam, I think last meeting, we talked about an agenda item coming back and kind of giving us an overview of all of what's going on. So as part of that, the funding, I guess, if you will, as a component of that, just to kind of share with everybody the success that both the state, the feds, and we are having with all of this, but also to certainly share our appreciation to the state with how much they are funding in this.
Sure, we'll be glad.
It's a lot of money that they're
It is.
moving.
We started early on wisely keeping a funding spreadsheet So it's getting to be a pretty large document.
That's great.
So, yes, we appreciate your comments. Thank you.
We need a motion for item B1.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item C1. Christie?
Okay, this is a change order for our MacArthur Boulevard Improvements Design Project. The purpose of the amendment is the proposed improvements and funding assistance for this project are significant, and therefore Martin County wants to increase efforts for public outreach and education. Therefore, LeConte Engineering, who is our consultant for this contract, is proposing additional support from a local public relations firm, which is the Firefly Group, to expand the public outreach services previously included in the current contract scope of services. Staff is recommending that the board approve amendment number 2 to the agreement with LeConte Engineering in the amount of $22,000 and move that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute any and all documents related to this request.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, and I pulled this because this is just design, which is already up to $378,000 for this project. And we have an outreach department, a really, really fine one in-house, and I absolutely do not think it's necessary to spend $22,000 in order to hire an outside consultant to do outreach for design. We can do that in-house and should do that in-house.
Commissioners? Commissioner Campy?
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Is George going to say something? Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. George, did you want to tell us a little bit more about that? You stepped up.
I'd be glad to. I'm
Not
George
so much
Zama, I'm the
promotional
Public
side,
Works.
but what the project is enveloped in.
Why don't you talk about the promotional side too, since
Well-
that's what this is about?
Fair enough. But so that everybody understands what the project is that is being promoted, I guess is.
Gladly. George Zama, Public Works Deputy Director. Just a little bit of the background for this specific item. We are carrying through with the design phase of the project, as was mentioned. The project improvements, which is a model for our resilience program, has significant significance of public displacement with beach closures upwards of 3 to 5 months. There's FEMA federal funding assistance with the project with specific federal provisions, and we feel we want to increase the efforts for public outreach, education, and local public relations for the project. The referenced vendor proposed was part of the original project team during the CCNA RFQ process. They have specific and very good background knowledge of Bathtub Beach and the sensitivities, being part of several Bathtub Beach renourishment projects, and they have well-established relationships with key stakeholders for this project. Some of the specific scope would be communicating, messaging, and public education, community outreach and education for public meetings and in-person contact, media relations, government relations, website, email communication, social media, along with our staff. They would do external communications, and then crisis communication, reputation management. And we did have another vendor, a continuing services vendor. They are good at what they do on a 30,000-foot level, if you will, but they're out of Dade County, and we feel they're not very well versed with the local issues, particularly for this project.
I'm done.
Just checking, just make sure. Thank you, George. Anybody else have anything else? There's a motion on the floor, there's a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd opposing.
Move approval of the remainder of consent 1.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Christie, thank you very much. Okay. That That was, I'm sorry, and then we have the second consent poll. That was adopt a proclamation celebrating the 95th anniversary of Lester, Landy, and Smith. Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, I pulled this because it seems to me that we have to have some guidelines, some parameters for awarding proclamations. I think that it needs to be a, I think that we need to have some sort of guidelines for who can be awarded a proclamation. And we currently don't have any policy for making a recommendation to approve a proclamation.
Well, Commissioner Hurd, I'm sorry. In your rules and procedures, we do, but it's very broad. It's a document of goodwill used to recognize a group, organization, or an event. And it can come from a member of the board, the county administration, or the public. And so in this instance, we did receive a request from the firm. So we can tighten that up, absolutely, but
it's a private
very
business.
broad. Mm-hmm.
Does that policy cover them?
Well, it would be
Are you considered a group?
a group or organization or an event.
Mr. Chair, George Stokas, Assistant County Administrator. So in the past 5 years, staff went back and researched. In the past 5 years, you haven't done a proclamation for a for-profit registered organization, which would be a private business, anything incorporated. However, talking to staff, they do recall probably 10, 15 years ago, we've done some proclamations for businesses as they've gotten to big, landmarks. I think from staff's perspective, we have two options. We can either leave the policy the same as it is, and it's a proclamation request, and the board can deny that, or we can refine the proclamation policy to exclude for-profit corporations. But at this point, you don't have anything that says yay or nay to for-profit. I did spend about an hour and a half researching the definition of group last night, to my wife's chagrin, and I couldn't find a good definition that says a group is just like a not-for-profit or a Boy Scouts or something like that. I have found nothing that excludes for-profit. It just doesn't, the policy doesn't exclude them, but it also doesn't include them. So it's really a matter of policy and discretion of the board.
Commissioner Gampy?
Thank you. I can see Commissioner Hurd's concern that this could potentially get out of hand if the language is too vague. However, I think this specific case with a local business of made up, as far as I remember, and look at their group, a lot of Martin County residents, 95 years celebration. I think of a proclamation as not some kind of financial reward. It's a celebration of someone in our community. I have no problem that it would be for a not-for-profit company. We gladly accept people's taxes, and they're in all forms. So why we wouldn't celebrate local businesses that are achieving milestones in our community? This is a proclamation. City of Stewart has already actually acknowledged this group. I saw it on social media, and it gave me an opportunity to understand that this firm has been here for literally nearly 100 years. And if it's, as Mr. Stokas said, he had to look back 10 years to find other examples of it, so it's not like people are taking advantage of it. We just spent more time discussing it on why we potentially should not be doing it than why we would. I have no problem with the current language, and if a for-profit business that had been located in Martin County is celebrating something, we should be glad to celebrate with them. And I would accept staff's recommendation, and I would congratulate Lesser, Landy, and Smith on their 95th anniversary.
I don't know who is first. Commissioner Jenkins?
I'll be quick because, again,
shocking.
Pretty much taken all the words out of my mouth. Any organization that has been doing business and serving Martin County residents for 95 years deserves to be recognized. And so I completely disagree with separating for-profit or not-for-profit. Agreed. We probably ought to tighten that up. How many years do you have to do business in Martin County to be recognized? But, yeah, but this is staple of our community as far as, anyway, so I'm all for it.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I would agree. Was that a second for that?
Yeah, I'll second.
And I will echo Commissioner Campy and Commissioner Jenkins' comments. 95 years is a deserves recognition in our community.
I as well, and I think the only one thing I might add that might tighten it up just a tad would be that you get a commissioner to sponsor or to be the person that says, we ought to have this proclamation. I get calls, I'm sure you all do, periodically throughout the year that want to get a proclamation or recognition or something on the agenda. And I just think if it came from a commissioner's request, it would take the burden off of staff to have to decipher whether it was a good idea, a bad idea.
Absolutely.
It sort of binds one of us to saying, we think it's important enough for whatever reason, and that would take the pressure off of a George or a Taryn or whoever. So that's the only thing I would suggest, but other than that, I'm sorry?
That's a great suggestion, thank you.
For a company to have lasted that many years and been successful all these years, we should applaud their success and wish them well on the next 95. So
Absolutely.
we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Is that something we can look into in terms of, do you want to do that during?
Well, it's in your rules and procedures currently, and then we have an
But
administrative
I mean,
policy as well.
adding sort of a requirement, if you all
Yes.
agree. If
Well, no, I think I agree with you. I think it gives us an opportunity to, and if a commissioner wants to get it on there, absolutely, we can just shore up the wording.
Yeah.
So you can bring that back at
Yep.
some point, and we can address that, and you okay with that, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, I think, right, that's it on consents. First item on the regular agenda would be public hearing, item number 1. Public hearing to amend, and amending assessment resolution for the Golden Gate Wastewater Municipal Service Benefit Unit, Caribbean Key Condominium. Mr. Emerson? Oh, no? Mr. Keithley? You don't look like Mr. Emerson. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Phil Keithley, Chief Project Manager for the Utilities and Solid Waste Department. Can you go to the next slide, Donna? As the board is aware, the Utilities Department is under construction of a wastewater collection system for the Golden Gate area, and we anticipate completion of that project by November of this year. Next slide. The final assessment resolution for the project was adopted on September the 15th of 2020. Recently, in preparation of the roll for mailing of lump sum payment notices to all affected properties, the staff realized that the Caribbean Key condominium was previously shown as one owner, and that owner was properly noticed for the public hearing on September the 15th of 2020, indicating a total of 5 ERCs for a total amount of $57,805 and proposed annual payment of $3,167.40. The condominium actually has 10 separate deeded owners at 1/2 ERC each, and all of those owners were not properly noticed of the public hearing held on September 15th. Therefore, the assessment amounts identified in the final assessment resolution adopted on September the 15th of 2020 remain the same. However, the 10 property owners of Caribbean Key condominium will each be assessed 1/2 ERC per unit for a total of 5 ERCs. A staff level workshop was held on February 15th of 2022 at the Caribbean Key condominium, and 8 of the 10 affected property owners were in attendance and made aware of the situation. As required, the notice for this hearing was advertised in the Stuart News, and individual notices were mailed to each of the 10 property owners of Caribbean Key condominium to be assessed at the mailing address indicated on the tax roll. Next slide. Therefore, completion of the project is still scheduled for November of this year. Lump sum payments of the assessment are due by August the 1st of 2022, and any payments not received by that date will be shown on the annual property tax bill in November 2022. Staff recommends adoption of the amending assessment resolution to reallocate certain special assessments within the existing Golden Gate Wastewater Municipal Service Benefit Unit to ensure fair and reasonable apportionment of costs. That concludes my presentation.
Keith, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, back to the board.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Keith, thank you. Item number 2, public hearing, or we have a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 159, Article 5, Water Conservation General Ordinances. Mr. Arthur, good morning.
Good morning. David Arthur, Senior Assistant County Attorney. This agenda item concerns amending the year-round landscape irrigation ordinance to comply with the state's preemption of local government licensing of occupations pursuant to Section 163-211 Florida statutes. The statute provides the licensing of occupations is expressly preempted to the state. And further, any local government licensing requirement of occupations is superseded effective July 1, 2021. As you recall, the board passed the irrigation ordinance on December 14, 2021. Specifically, the irrigation ordinance defines the term licensed contractor to include individuals who are licensed in irrigation systems by local government. The definition is found in Section 159-132A-24 of the irrigation ordinance. This amendment would delete the reference to local government licenses for irrigation systems. This amendment would also add to the definition of licensed contractor individuals who are certified by the state as irrigation specialty contractors pursuant to Rule 61G4-15.035, of the Florida Administrative Code. The rest of the definition remained unchanged, including individuals who are licensed by the state as engineers, licensed architects, and plumbers. As amended, the irrigation ordinance would take effect on June 12, 2022. We recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to address us on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. Any
Staff's
conversation?
recommendation.
Second. Second.
I know, I'm sorry. I was just looking to make sure if anybody had anything to say.
Oh, well, I mean, David worked hard on this, and obviously the state precluded the recognizing our local licensure, so this was just necessary to continue on with that. So, and I appreciate David's hard work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good. Any further comments from the board? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, public hearing, quasi-judicial. First item is Meritage Homes of Florida, Inc. requests approval of a rezoning to a platted unit developed PUD and a PUD zoning agreement, including a master site plan for the Willoughby Townhomes project. Mr. Staley, good morning.
Good morning.
This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so Commissioner Jenkins? Do you have anything to file?
I do, and they've been filed. I forgot what I was supposed to say.
I do,
That's
and
okay.
they've been filed.
Commissioner Campy?
I do, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Hurd?
I have none, and they've been filed.
I do, and they're filed. Are there any interveners?
No.
None. Do we have any return
They were provided at the
notices?
LPA.
So they've been provided. Am I forgetting anything else? Oh, swearing in, that's right. Anybody that's going to participate in this hearing from the applicant side needs to be sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Mr. Staley.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Matt Staley, Principal Planner with the Growth Management Department. A copy of the agenda item and my work history has been provided. This is a request by Meritage Homes of Florida, Inc. for approval of rezoning to a planned unit development and a PUD zoning agreement, including a master site plan for the development of 117 townhomes and associated infrastructure on approximately 18.37 acres. Included in this application is a request for a deferral of Certificate of Public Facilities reservation. A more detailed version of the staff report has been provided demonstrating compliance findings from the development review team. The project, as you can see here, is located at the intersection on northeast corner of Southeast Willoughby and Southeast Salerno Road in Stewart, with the adjacent to Cleveland Clinic Martin South, Pinewood Elementary to the north, and IRSC further to the east, adjacent to the Woodlands community development. Here you can see an aerial of the subject site with a previously excavated lake and some single-family, and looking at historical aerials, this was previously a nursery quite some time ago. Here you can see the zoning map currently with the Core 1 and Core 2 split zoning on the subject site, and the future land use map of commercial office residential. The applicant is seeking flexibility of the zoning development standards through a PUD zoning agreement and is proposing public benefits to offset the modifications to the zoning standards. The application will be required to comply with the standards of the comprehensive plan policies governing residential development. Here is the master site plan. The project is located in the primary urban services district and will be serviced by Martin County Utilities for water and wastewater. Primary access to the site is proposed to the north via Southeast Darling Street here. And an emergency access only is also being provided here via stabilized access from Southeast Salerno Road. Because the application includes a request for master site plan approval, no construction would be authorized until the final site plan has been approved for the site. The proposed public benefit is a multimodal path. At its sole expense, the owner shall design, permit, and construct a multimodal path along Southeast Willoughby Boulevard's easterly right-of-way from the intersection of Southeast Salerno Road, extending north approximately 3,600 feet to the existing sidewalk north of Southeast Coral Lakes Way. The multimodal path shall be designed and permitted through a Martin County right-of-way use permit and shall be constructed prior to the issuance of the first residential building permit, not including the models. You can see here, this is the pedestrian bridge across Willoughby here, extending from the intersection Southeast Salerno and Willoughby, just prior to that bridge. The matter was heard before the local planning agency on March 17th, where they voted for recommendation of approval. The development review staff has reviewed this application and finds that it complies with the LDR and comp plan as detailed within the staff report. Staff recommends approval of this development application consistent with the guidelines and standards of the applicable comp plan goals as implemented in the LDR. So with that, we move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all of its attachments, including the staff report for the record as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the request for the rezoning from the current Core 1 and Core 2 Commercial Office Residential District to the Planned Unit Development District, and approve the Willoughby Townhomes PUD zoning agreement and master site plan. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Staley, thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, do our current regulations require that the developer construct a sidewalk for a major development?
Yes, along their project limits, I believe.
So why is this a public benefit? It's a requirement.
Well, a couple things. I believe the requirements for a 6-foot sidewalk, this would be an 8 to 10-foot multimodal path. In addition, it would only be required along the project's boundaries. It's extending all the way north to, as mentioned, above Southeast Coral Lakes Way.
And tell me what the land use is to the north of the project?
Let's go up. Future land use is a state density,
How about to the east?
state density,
2 units per acre?
units per acre, yes.
To the south?
Rural density across the right-of-way.
And how many units to the acre?
Is that one per 2?
1 per 2? And this is either 5 units per acre or 7.8 units per acre?
No, are you talking about commercial office residential is 10 units per acre?
I know, but I'm talking about this project.
This project is 6.4 gross density.
Yeah, half of it is 5 and half of it is 7.8. How is that compatible with the land uses to the south, to the east, and to the north?
It complies with the future land use on the project. It's meeting the density transition of the adjacent properties, which is why you see the vacant area in between.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions for staff? Mr. Grady, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Morris Crady, senior partner with Lucido and Associates. And I'm here on behalf of the landowners, which is the Visiting Nurse Association, owns the 10-acre parcel in the front, and the Darling Street LLC owns the parcels in the back of that front on Darling Street. I'm also here on behalf of the contract purchaser, which is Meritage Homes. I think you got a good idea of where the property is located. We're right in the center of the urban service boundary, across from the hospital and Indian River State College. And to the north is that's Fernlea Nursery, and then to the east is the Woodlands community. And I've been working on this site for literally the past 15 years, going through various scenarios and meetings with the property owners next door in the Woodlands. And this was probably the first time we had a community meeting that they actually supported the project. And other uses that have been proposed on that site was an assisted living facility at one time we're proposing for the Visiting Nurse Association. And by right, you can do multifamily apartments and condominiums on this site. As we already went through the land use and zoning, that's pretty well understood. The existing characteristics of the property are all impacted by exotic vegetation. There is a house that was located here on an island around this lake. That's a dilapidated structure that will be removed, and all these structures will be removed, but as part of this application. This area down here is all Brazilian pepper and will be cleaned up and used as the native landscape area as part of the transition to the adjacent property. So this is a rendering of the site, and you can see the Woodlands community. We made sure that our density transition zone met the same depth as those lots adjacent to us, and these are the individuals that we met with, and they are in support of the project. Across Willoughby Boulevard is Abundant Life Ministries, and as was talked about, the Indian River State College and Cleveland Clinic is over in this area with over probably 1,000 in jobs. So this property is strategically located near a major employment center. And as was discussed, we're proposing 117 units on approximately 18 acres, which is 6.4 units per acre. We could do more than that, but given the density transition requirements and the buffering requirements, we're limited to 6.4 units per acre. We have no access on Salerno Road. One of the things that we were sensitive to is providing additional access points on Salerno Road or Willoughby Boulevard. We're actually using an existing public right-of-way and improving that public right-of-way and providing our access point off of Southeast Darling Street, which eventually would tie in and allow for access to the Fernlea property if and when it's developed in the future. They would be able to share that public right-of-way. And again, we're cleaning out the lake, we're moving the structure there and redoing the landscape all the way around and cleaning up this native landscape area. This is the rendering of the architectural type, and this has been built in the city of Stuart and successfully sold to teachers, policemen, firemen, and a representative from Meritage will be up to speak towards that in a moment. But we do think it is a strategic location for attainable housing for the employment center across the street. As I mentioned, the community meeting was held on February 17th actually that's 2022, excuse that typo, at the Blake Library. We reviewed with them the density transition zone, access, drainage, and housing types, and addressed all of their concerns and comments. Probably had about 15 people show up for that public meeting, but we did provide notice to everyone within 500 feet of the property for that meeting. Their major concern was they don't want rental housing on this property, and that's one of the reasons that we committed to doing a fee simple product versus a condominium or a rental project. This exact project, the exact design, can be permitted by right without a PUD as a condominium or a rental project. But because we decided to go fee simple, we're having to create lots for these individual units. Obviously the side lot line is not applicable because these are connected buildings, but we had to modify slightly the front and rear setbacks in order to create a fee simple project that would allow individual homes to be sold to individual owners. So that's really the only developer benefit. We aren't gaining any additional density or any additional size of units or anything. And the only thing that we're doing is reducing the front and rear setbacks so these can be sold as a platted fee simple project. We're trying to maximize, one of the key features in the urban service district is to maximize the utilization of existing and planned infrastructure. We did have conversations with the Woodlands community about the county's improvements to Salerno Road that are underway. We coordinated our efforts with the county, and we have, in fact, we're donating right-of-way on Salerno Road so those improvements can be accommodated, and we're also donating right-of-way on Willoughby Boulevard to accommodate a turn lane. So that is a public benefit, the right-of-way donation, but we're also, as was mentioned by staff, constructing a multimodal path from the Salerno Road intersection all the way up to the overpass at Pinewood Elementary, which is an additional 3,000 linear feet of construction at a cost of approximately $100,000. So that is our major public benefit in exchange for really nothing more than a variance to the front and rear setback. So that, and then again, you can see that these units will have a lot drawn around them, but for the most part, the lot ends at the right-of-way track, and then there's a 10-foot setback behind the unit before we tie into a buffer that will be installed up front. At least there will be a 6-foot screen installed up front prior to any construction of the project. And with that understanding, I'm going to introduce you to Dante Vergari, and he's going to have a few comments about Meritage in general. Dante?
Good morning. Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you. I'm Dante Vergari with Meritage Homes, 1400 Center Park Boulevard, West Palm Beach. I've been here for about 6 years now, and I've been with Meritage Homes for about 9. When I first arrived in South Florida, I'm sure that, when it's synonymous with when you hear Meritage Homes, you think about the Langford Landings project, and one of the primary reasons why I relocated was to help build this division that was here. However, when I got here, the Langford project was under construction, and we had a failed leadership that was in place. And there were a lot of folks that were not happy, not only the consultants, but the political leaders, but more importantly, the adjoining property owners. And I kind of dug my heels in, and I went and met with each and every one of them. I've sat in their living rooms, I've sat on their screen porch, their driveways, out on the site, and instead of telling them what I was going to do, I decided, something, let me listen to what they have to say first, because I think that is important. And I spent a lot of time listening. And after I listened, I told them that I'm going to put a plan in place for each and every one of them, because each and every one of those folks had a very specific issue. And after, a couple of months went by and putting together this list and putting a plan in place and executing that plan, I started working with the local staff and trying to restore our reputation here, which is important. The leadership that was here apparently made a lot of promises and said a lot of things that they didn't deliver on that. When I say that I'm going to do something, it's important to me that I deliver that, because I think that that certainly builds your credibility. And for that, I have a good relationship with each and every one of the adjoining residents. I'd given them my cell phone number. They did not fail to call me on the weekends at all hours of the night, text message and emailing me. I would visit with them on the weekends. But it was important to do so. Again, restoring a reputation, restoring, when we say that we're going to do something, that we deliver. Since then, what's happened is that Langford has continued to thrive and build out. I think we'll be closing our last home sometime in April or May. The roundabout has been constructed. We've received compliments on the community itself. We've received compliments on the roundabout, that it's one of the nicer ones in Martin County. They also like the fact that our homeowners association maintains it. And again, it's just about reputation and saying, if we're going to say something, that we deliver upon that, because it's important. Your word is everything. Fast forwarding on, about 8 months ago, Meritage acquired the Osprey project. And we hired a civil site contractor and a variety of other vendors, as we typically do. It was an event that took place that we're not proud of, but one of our site contractors cleared an area of palmetto and pine trees. We immediately stopped them from work, went and met with the city leaders, the staff, and diligently worked through a plan with them to restore that. It wasn't something that was done intentional by any means at all. There was nothing to gain. We didn't gain any more density. We didn't gain any more, area or square footage to our lots. It was a mistake that, again, that we continuously keep trying to improve upon. I know that I've worked with the city staff, met with each and every one of the city council folks. We have internally put some measures in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And again, it's probably another 1 or 2 more steps in the process, but I think, again, that it's important. These are the things, our reputation is on the line, and we want to be able to perform. I can promise you that this was not intentional. And it hurt us just as bad. After coming back from the Langford issue and then having this happen was certainly not anything that we had planned. That vendor, obviously we've had some concern about them, and certainly they will, we have taken measures in place to work through some issues with them, and the potential for them doing work for us again is unlikely at this point in time. However, we're the person responsible, and we stood up and we worked with the city. We planted 1.5 times more than what was proposed within those buffers, close to $1 million worth of plant material. In addition to, there was an additional ½ acre that was not part of the plan to plant, that we eradicated all of the exotic species, and we planted that area as well, as to show good faith that, again, we want to partner up with the City of Stuart, with Martin County, and with the residents. Lately, throughout the news media, whether it's reading a newspaper, reading something online, or you turn on the news and you hear a lot about attainable housing, and you hear about the rents pricing escalating. It's a real issue. And one of the things that we've done throughout the process is that in our communities, we have completed 2 successful projects in the City of Stuart, one being Seaside, and the other is the Trillium Project. Within those communities, that is the buyer profile. The folks that were just up here earlier this morning that received that proclamation, the first responders, that's our target. The school teachers, the educators, the first responders, the folks that come here to build their businesses and then their workforce. Where do they live, right? everybody wants home ownership. The beauty of this is we don't do condos for several different reasons. This is a fee simple for sale project. There's, along with development, whether it's residential or multifamily or even commercial development, if I'm a business owner and I'm coming to a certain geographic area and I'm hiring employees, I want to know where my employee base is coming from. You know, I've met with a lot of city leaders, local planning folks, just business owners in the community here itself, and there's something that I hear time and time again, that, you know, the businesses are here, but my folks live, or my employees live in Port St. Lucie or Fort Pierce or here or there, and they're driving 35, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour to get to work. And the message that I've heard from a lot of the folks that I've been speaking to is that why can't we get something affordable here in Martin County? And again, this is what we're targeting as far as what that buyer profile is. We're here to try to, the office staff, the people even actually in this building. So for example, in just our Seaside project and Trillium project alone, we have 5 either fire, EMS, or police living in our community. We have 10 educators. We have 25 medical personnel's office staff support. We have 19 military veterans in just 2 of our communities. That's about 30%. So, again, I appreciate your time. Again, our reputation is on the line. I think that we've got a good project here. We have the community support. I think that the public benefit certainly helps in, you know, working with staff and making sure that, that again, all the bases were covered. We followed the land development code, that this was a success, you know, a project that measures up. I'm just asking for an opportunity to show you that, and to promise you that we can put a successful project on the ground, be able to work with the staff, be able to provide housing for the immediate community, the local folks here, and again, just to restore and show you that we can perform. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Campy. Are you done, Morris?
No, I was going to close out unless you have questions from Mr.
Close out.
Obviously, I forgot to say, we are in agreement with staff recommendation of approval, and we'll be glad to answer any questions. We do have our drainage engineer and environmental consultant here as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
excuse me, can I confirm that the notices you didn't mention?
I did. I asked.
I'm
in the
very
beginning,
sorry, I apologize.
And I didn't say it overly loud, but yes, he confirmed that they had been done at the LPA, I believe, correct?
Thank you.
Sorry. Did you have more? Did you want to add? Was that your staff, or was that staff over here?
I'm done.
That's yours. Okay. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Crady is not wrong when he says that this property's had a history coming forward with the county, and that he actually had shepherded some of the things forward on the property's behalf. The last time this parcel was before us and myself, I voted no. I felt that the recommended, or the what they were looking to do there wasn't really ideal. Back then, the projects had to come all within the same day time frame. So the whole area was, the room was filled with different applicants representing all of the parcels that are in play in this area. And that was several years ago, and the project didn't move forward. When I heard that it was coming back again, prior to understanding what the suggestion was going to be for this site, I was concerned again that this area was just going to be in play again. But I did have an opportunity to meet with the folks and review our staff's information. A couple of the criteria that I use when thinking about is this appropriate or not is school capacity. And Mr. Crady, I believe when I asked you that question that the school district has reviewed this, and school capacity is not an issue for the elementary and middle school. Mr. Staley, do you agree with that?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. The other very important issue for me is how will this affect and what is the opinion of the existing residents? And I was pleased to receive a couple of letters from the neighborhood to the east of this project, the Woodlands. This morning, I think each of us received an email from their association president endorsing the actual vision that had been presented to them. So I think it's important, and I know that our staff doesn't allow people to present one thing and then, morph it into something else. But I can appreciate their concern that. And then I received a letter the other day as well from someone else. And when I first started to read the letter, I think most of the time when someone takes the time to submit a letter to us, that it would probably be more opposed than in favor of. And so I was pleased that the letters were in favor. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone would be, but that meant to me that there was a community outreach of those individuals that would be most directly affected, and that there was a negotiation or a back and forth of allowing something that the residents would find appropriate. The buffer, I like the large buffer, the lake and the native landscapes. I think that's important. I thought the interesting point with the letters was that they would prefer residents, permanent residents versus rental properties. I know that we're all aware that the city of Stewart and elsewhere in the county have been working on rental issues and rental inventory stock. The parcel to the north, there was a question about housing types. I remember when that project, the nursery project, when that came forward, one of my criteria back then, and for Coral Lakes, is that the neighborhood, Coral Lakes? And the Woodlands, those are larger parcels. As you said, the Woodlands is a half-acre home sites. And I think Coral Lakes is similar to that. And at the time, my criteria was that, well, if someone is looking to build in this area, they should have to build similar home types. But I don't know if it's the pandemic or just seems to be a very quick shift and a change in mindset that one home per 2 acres, which is south of Salerno, or half-acre home sites is not what the community and residents and future residents and kids that grew up here in Martin County that want to remain in Martin County would be looking for. They're not looking for half-acre home sites anymore. They're not looking for 2-acre home sites. They're looking for more of this model. So I think the delay has served you well. I think that you have heard, which I guess businesses obviously have to do. You have to understand what the market is looking for and deliver a product that would be appropriate for that. It's also within the urban service boundary, and the other thing that I think is important is that there is no access except for emergency access to Salerno. It's close to the Willoughby-Salerno intersection. I think if you were trying to have folks come in and out that close to the intersection would be potentially a problem for me. And so with that in mind, I think that the location and what you're looking to do on the location, you doing the community outreach, which is vital for success in approvals, in my mind, for these types of projects, and that you're building something. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about first responders and teachers and folks like that, but all of us are familiar that it's also senior citizens that have homes in our community that are now maybe widowed and no longer need to have those large homes, but there's nowhere for them to go outside of an assisted living facility, so they're not giving up those homes. We're not seeing the turnover in our residential marketplace that would allow folks to take those homes. So seniors are staying where they are because it's less expensive for them to remain, because there's nowhere for them to go. So I think that would address seniors that don't have large properties that they'll have to maintain or pay to maintain. And I also think that the other, and I'm first living this example myself personally, is our children that were raised and went to school here and then either went off to college and came back or decided to make a professional career in the communities that they lived in and grew up in. There's nowhere for them to go. And so I think that this is a nice complement to our home stock inventory. It addresses a need. And so I, with that, would make a motion to, I know you have to do public first, but when we're there, after hearing public comment, I would make a motion to accept staff's recommendation of approval.
Okay, does anybody else wish to comment or discuss? Yes, Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, do we have a minimum lot size?
For townhomes, I have the code here, Article 3. There's a footnote in the Table 3.12 regarding townhomes. Minimum lot size and lot width requirements don't apply to townhomes.
So there's no minimum, when was that changed?
I'm not sure exactly when that was added, but
So it could be 10 feet? It could be 11 feet wide?
no, I don't believe so, but
Well, there's no, tell me what the minimum lot size is then.
Good morning, Commissioners. Paul Schelling, Growth Management Director. To answer your question, Commissioner, there is no minimum lot size because if you can envision the fact that these are going to be platted fee simple, so there will be a plat behind this application should it be successful, there is no minimum lot size for those parcels. So what we typically find is the lot is the building itself and portions of the driveway and the rear patio, and the remainder is common open space dedicated to the association. I don't know the answer to your question as to when that requirement was footnoted in our LDR, but
I'm cognizant of a general public meltdown over overdevelopment right now. And I think that, I know, that if our public was aware that we don't have minimum lot sizes, that they would be very concerned that what's next? If this board approves this project, then what's possible for the next project? Could we cram in twice as many?
Commissioner Hurd, I think you'd find a struggle marketing a 10-foot wide lot. In addition, you're limited to the density that's allowed on the site. So.
The width of the lot is the same as the width of the unit, and we have 20-foot wide and 24-foot wide units within each building. So that's your width of your lot, so to speak. There is no side setback because they are attached. The units are attached.
So the square footage of these lots is 1,600 square feet.
No.
But
no, the depth varies. I think they're
20 by 80.
They're two-story homes, and
I'm saying
I
the
think
size
they're
of
24
the
by
lot.
how deep is a unit? I thought it was.
The units, again, as Morris was just stated, that the units are two-story. They range between 1,480 square feet to 1,800 square feet as far as the actual structure themselves. The lot, to answer your question, the width of the lot, there are two sizes. One is 20-foot wide by approximately the building depth. Well, the lot itself is 20 by 80 to 90 feet, so they vary between the two. And then then there's another which is 24 feet wide, which is the unit. And that's the same depth, approximately 80 to 90 feet deep. Now, each one of the units themselves are 20 by 50 in depth, two-story. I hope that answered your question.
I wasn't asking about the size of the unit. I was asking about the lot size.
Yes, and the lot
We're not
size is
approving the unit
20
size.
feet by approximately 80 to 85, so they vary, and then 24 by 85 to 90, so that varies as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I had a question on the setback. So I think, Morris, you mentioned that in order for it to be fee simple, there was the variance in setback. So if these were by right, I guess, can you clarify what the difference
If it was
and
sold-
why would you not need a variance in setback by right?
if it was a condominium project, you do the exact same project as a condominium, then you're not creating lots. Your setback is measured from the the actual property line of the whole, of the entire project. So so you're not, so the front setback, you're just set back enough from the sidewalk. There would be no lot line, along there. It would just be a project that would be rented or conveyed by condominium documents. So you could not sell the land underneath the unit, fee simple.
But clearly, there are setbacks still off of the property line.
Yeah, the setback off the property line is really the buffer, the required buffer.
Okay.
But you could
All
put
right, I
you
was
could put
confusing the two.
yeah, you could put a unit right on top of the buffer. We're 10 feet off of the buffer.
And there is a traffic light at Salerno and Willoughby, correct?
Yes.
And so this this traffic would either push out Darling to Willoughby and out to Salerno, or Willoughby up to the north.
Pomeroy.
Indian.
I guess just on some of Commissioner Campy's comments, some of them I agree with, but in talking to, Woodlands just came into District 2, so I've had a lot of conversations with them, and overwhelmingly, they are very, very concerned about traffic on Salerno and Willoughby. Very, very concerned. And this project is not super imaginable. I'm concerned about the traffic. I do think that some of the Woodlands residents like the density transition zone, but if it was a by right project, we would also need that transition zone. So although I'm not super excited about it, this is a more difficult one for me.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I feel the same. I love the idea of home ownership and giving young families the opportunity to build equity, and it is a huge need in the county. In talking to Mr. Crady, I voiced my concern with the traffic and traffic studies. In the past, we've had presentations of actually what the grade of the road is, as far as the A to F and all that other stuff. This whole Salerno Road, Cove Road traffic situation is probably the lion's share of emails that I get here recently in the last 6 months, and it is a concern. I understand Pomeroy's probably a little bit better than the other two, but we haven't talked a lot about that, and I would like somebody to actually talk about how the traffic has been studied and how it is either acceptable or not. Please.
Morris, do you have?
Yeah, she's coming.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Melissa Corbett, the Melcor Group, for the record, the civil engineer that worked on the traffic analysis. So this is master plan approval. So what we looked at was carrying this out, assuming we obtained your approval this year, 2022 for master plan, coming forward 2023 approval for final site plan, and then we carried it out per your code to the year 2029 is when we evaluated the future traffic on Willoughby Boulevard. That is carrying it out per your code. This project will create approximately 825 daily trips. It will create approximately 59 AM peak hour trips, of which 45 of those trips would be exiting the site. So 45 people during the AM peak hour, which is 7 AM to 9 AM, would be coming out onto Willoughby Boulevard. Interestingly, in the evening, the peak hours, the peak hour generation is 71 trips, but the division between entering and exiting is exactly the same as the AM, where it's 45 peak hour trips coming back into the development. So you essentially, in the morning and the evening, have 45 trips either leaving onto the highway or coming back into the neighborhood. And that's what we're required to evaluate, is that peak hour directional traffic. So with the total trips going out onto Willoughby Boulevard of 45 trips, you can generally assume that about 50% of them are going to go in each direction. I mean, it's just common sense. Some of them are going to head down to Salerno Road or Cove Road. Some of them are going to head north up towards Pomeroy or Indian Street. It's 2.6% of the trips on Willoughby Boulevard, of the capacity on Willoughby Boulevard. 2.6%. You carry that out into the future years, into 2029, the capacity of Willoughby Boulevard is 880 trips. Our project trips plus the future trips on Willoughby Boulevard in the year 2029, we will be at just under 600 trips. So Willoughby Boulevard is still operating at capacity. I know there's concerns on Salerno Road. We do not have a driveway connection on Salerno Road for exactly the reason that Commissioner Campy brought up. We're too close to the intersection anyhow. We do have emergency access. It's a stabilized access for EMS because they always want two ways in and out. But we do not have capacity issues on Willoughby Boulevard at the build-out year. So. Yeah.
And really, the design of this product and the location of this site is intended to capture trips. I mean, there's probably more than 2,000 jobs within a half-mile radius of this site. Those people are probably, if they can afford it, are living in a different county. People that work in Palm Beach County are not going to buy one of these units and commute to Palm Beach County. People that buy units here are probably working in Martin County, and they don't want to commute to Okeechobee or Indiantown or Port St. Lucie. So it's going to capture those trips.
And that's one of the things that we don't factor into this, is we don't look at how many of these people are going to be nurses that are going to work right across the street at Martin Memorial and not even have to get in a car. How many of them are going to ride a bicycle across the street to work? That's not factored into this. That's assuming that every person in here gets into their car and leaves. So that just kind of dovetails what Mr. Grady said. Is that?
So none of these studies, you're saying, I get Willoughby. Willoughby's not my issue. Salerno is my issue.
Okay, so Salerno Road, we do project trips out. The 50% vehicles coming out, some of them are going to come down to Willoughby, and they're going to either make a left or a right. We have approximately 9 trips during the peak hour going both left and right in each direction on Willoughby. That is approximately 1.1% of the capacity of Willoughby Boulevard. Willoughby, it has a breaking point right there at, Salerno right at Willoughby. If you're heading east towards US 1, the capacity is 790 trips. If you're heading west towards 76, the capacity is 880 trips. So it changes right there at that intersection. And we're putting approximately 9 vehicles on each link.
9 vehicles out of 825 daily trips.
It's the peak
I'm
hour.
having a hard time.
This is only the peak hour, so this is not over this is the during the peak hours of 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the evening. So yes, over the course of the day, there will be more trips on it, but we're required to evaluate it in the peak hour to make sure the concurrency still functions.
It's just kind of hard to wrap your head around a community that is working class community that's either taking their kids to school or going to their job, that you only have 7 vehicles turning one way or the other on a peak hour.
9, but Yes, I
9, whatever it
understand.
is, yeah.
There's also some that would go straight through that intersection to Cove Road and could go left or right on Cove.
Worse.
Which is worse. There's also the ones that are going north to Pomeroy or Indian.
Which is better. I got it.
But I was trying to look at it realistically. I can't look at it and say, yes, going north is better, so let's put all the cars up there. I didn't want to look at it from that way. I wanted to look at it realistically because I believe some of them are going to come down to Salerno Road. I believe that some of them would work at the hospital or possibly at the college, so they're going to be heading south. So I had to realistically evaluate it and assign more trips that direction.
Is that it? Ms. Story, did you have your light on still?
Sorry, that I mistakenly bumped the button. Sorry.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to address us on this item? If you want to come forward, now would be the time. And if you don't have one of those little sheets to fill out, that was, sir, come on in.
Good morning. So I grew up here in Martin County. My family's been here for like 20 years. And
Can you just do your name for the record?
oh yeah, Matt Reardon. So I went to Martin County High School. I went to Chicago after college, and I came back here about 3 months ago. The main reason was to be back with my family and my fiance's family. The issue that we're running into is that rentals are extremely high, and so is the housing. And then when you do find something, it's only there for a day or something, and then it's gone. Really, we want to start a family here in Martin County, but a lot of us are being pushed out to St. Lucie or somewhere else. I believe this project, a townhouse like this, could really solve the issue for me and others, like in my position, that are young professionals. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else from the public wish to address us on this item? Okay. I'll share some closing thoughts and comments. I wanted to wait to hear from everybody else. Especially wanted to hear from Dante. And Dante, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you coming up and sharing with us your comments. And my comments are going to, they're not directed at Dante. I think Dante took on an incredibly tough job when he came into Martin County and came into Rio to try to fix the mess that Meritage Homes had created over there for all of us. My disappointment in Meritage is that they told the residents one thing and did something entirely different. And then there were things that didn't happen, things that they promised the residents, they promised the community, they promised the commission they were going to do and didn't do. We sort of kind of got over that. There were improvements made. Dante's correct. His conversations with the neighbors, there were a lot of elevation, there were a lot of issues with how things were going to blend from the new development to the old development, and how all that was going to work. And to his credit, and when he says he met with the neighbors and talked to the neighbors, I give him full credit for that and appreciate it, because it made a huge difference with them, and certainly with what was happening next door to them, the changes that were happening and what the community went through were significant. But nonetheless, it left a really sour taste in Ryle's mouth in terms of what they said they were going to do and what they didn't do. We got over that, and as Dante commented, and I give him credit for coming up and sharing his side of the story. In my district, the second project that messed up. And what's interesting is, to the embarrassment of the city of Stewart, because some people know, some people don't know, but Osprey Ridge is in the city of Stewart, not in Jensen Beach, not in unincorporated Martin County. Martin County took a lot of blame for what happened out there on the site. And we had nothing to do with it. We had a speaker this morning get up and talk about it, and wanted to know, sort of, I guess, or allude at least in his comments, that why, if you live in Martin County, or if this is in Martin County, doesn't Martin County have say over what the city of Stewart does? We do not have say over what the city of Stewart does with their land development regulations and their development and their product that they're building. But nonetheless, it was still a disappointment, and I think an embarrassment to the city that they once again came into our community and messed up. Dante, I appreciate your perspective on this, but you only get so many swings at the apple. You know, it's a hard one to swallow. Coupled on top of that, you've had a couple of commissioners talk about, and this shouldn't be lost on any of us, the complete dissatisfaction, I think, with our community as a whole as to how many apartment, condo, fee simple units that have been built in the last 2 to 3 years in the city. Some in the county, but mostly in the city. And everybody's really fed up with it. It's like too much. On the other hand, and the speaker just got up, you have this other issue, which Meritage on this project is fulfilling that need. There are younger families, there are younger kids in town, certainly people that want to stay in Martin County, want to either have a place to live, want to own a place to live, want a place to call home, and want to stay in Martin County or come back to Martin County. So there's this dilemma between what the community wants for those that live here and those that want to come back here and live, and how they get their start and how they begin their Martin County experience. The other thing I am disappointed in with this project thus far, and final site plan is a ways off, and we have the opportunity to fix some of it. The design standards of these commercial condominiums, townhouses, whatever you want to call them, our apartment buildings, is hideous. I said that during the joint workshop when the city showed us the 5 or 6 projects 2 years ago that they were going to build. We should, in Martin County, deserve better than what we're getting. And I said this to Dante when I met with him the other day. If that's the best your company can come up with, I'm not encouraged. I'm really not. And to the young gentleman that got up and spoke, you deserve better. If that's going to be your first home and you're going to have a mortgage and you're going to own that lot and own that unit, I want you to be as proud as owning it as when you come home at night and say, God, I really love where I live. Not the fact that it's available and you had a shot at getting a unit, but I want you to turn the corner off of Willoughby, go onto your street, go into your home and go, this is a really great place. And quite honestly, with the architecture and what's being shown to us, I'm not impressed. I can't believe the industry or that Meritage, that's the best you can come up with. And so between now, if this gets a motion today and gets approved today, between now and final site plan, I would certainly encourage you to do better. Martin County deserves it. The city deserves it, quite frankly. The people that are going to live there deserve to come to a nice-looking neighborhood. And I know that's subjective. I appreciate that. But the images I saw were just, for me, not good enough. And we can do better. I think to our staff, I think that pushes me to suggest that in the commercial design standards component of our code, we need to include apartments, condos, townhouses in that portion. And I know that's not the agenda item, and I'm getting looks from Krista, but the reason we did commercial design standards, we were getting terrible, awful-looking buildings. And the worst one that was built was the last one that was on Savannah Road, and everything bad about commercial design standards was on that building before we went to the commercial design standards review. Yes, sir.
May I, just, while I'm thinking of it, those would be more architectural styles for non-PUD and/or PUD multifamily projects?
I think any multifamily project should have a design review criteria. That's just me.
Okay, I just don't want it interwoven in the commercial design because I think
I only use commercial design because that's the only place where we have design standards that get reviewed.
Thank you.
I just think that if there are more of these to be built somewhere in Martin County, at least in an incorporated Martin County, we ought to deserve better than what we're getting. So those are my comments. Dante, I appreciate you coming forward and being honest with the board. I think that says a lot about you, and my comments really are nothing about you. It's much more about the company that you work for, and that if this does get passed, the highest level of scrutiny has got to be played on this property and on this project because of the failures of the past. And we don't accept that in Martin County. It's just not good enough. And you guys got to do better than that. Ms. Story, did you have the light on again?
Yes, when it's appropriate, I'd like to give some context to your decision and talk about a couple things that were mentioned. I don't know if commissioners are finished with their comments.
I don't see any lights on. It's up to you.
Okay, so and maybe for the benefit of the public and also for commissioners. So what you have before you is a request to rezone to a PUD zoning district with a PUD agreement. It is correct that PUD agreement, zoning agreements are negotiations between the Board of County Commissioners and the property owner. Having said that, this is still a quasi-judicial matter. And in quasi-judicial matters, there is the application of policy to a particular site. That's why then we have the context of testimony under oath. And in terms of decisions, so certainly the Board of County Commissioners has some ability to impose additional conditions or express certain sentiments. But if you move forward potentially to the denial of a project such as this under the quasi-judicial, even though it is a PUD, you must provide specific findings based on the evidence, based on code compliance matters. I appreciate, and I have been here long enough that I'm very familiar with the things that occurred at Langford Landings and other places. I would caution you from a legal perspective that this project needs to be evaluated based on the project before you and its compliance or lack thereof with your standards and regulations. There is some discretion, but it would need to be couched in specific matters, code-based, comprehensive plan amendment-based, those kinds of things. The board has the option, when this comes forward, you may approve with conditions, you may continue the matter for further review. All those are the options that you have in addressing it. So
When you say that is for final site plan.
no, for this, you have the ability for this.
No, you said when it comes forward. We are here today.
Today, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't.
Forward meant the next agenda item if there is to be a next, that's how I understood that if it were to come back as final site plan, there'd be other opportunities to do what?
Well, with a final site plan, though, the backdrop of that is that a final site plan by our code must be consistent with the master site plan. Now, not everything is fleshed out in great detail, but so you have some limitations unless then a revision to the master site plan, which would be an amendment to the PUD agreement, would come forward because master site plans are an exhibit to your PUD zoning agreement. One of the other things I would just mention in passing, I believe that in terms of design standards for residential units, I think the legislature may have preempted local governments a bit from imposing those things on anything outside of PUDs or...
This is a PUD.
Correct. Just more to your global comments about that, so just kind of... And we can look into that further, but there was some of that going on.
There absolutely is. Sorry, you're absolutely correct.
So I don't know. I just want to mention that to you.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Commissioner Hetherington?
I was just going to share my sentiments. So to Matt, I take to heart that, that you want to come back here because as a fourth generation native, I also wanted to come back here. I don't know that, some of the products that are being built in the market now are lean themselves toward that. These are probably going to be 300,000 plus units based on, some of the other products that I see. I think it's certainly a bigger issue that we have to address. And I'm still not convinced that the 117 units here at this particular location, how the imbalance of that on Salerno Road, while people are very, very concerned about the traffic. So,
Okay, what I'd like to do at this point, we're 45 minutes past our break for closed captioning. If someone's inclined to make some sort of a movement or a motion.
I made a motion.
I appreciate that. That was prior to public and,
I make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
okay. So now we have a motion, sort of. We don't have a second as of yet. So if there's going to be a lot more discussion, if there's going to be more, then we need to take our break and come back, and we'll wrap it up after the break. Okay, I'm not hearing a second, so we will take a 10-minute break. We will come back after the break in about 25 after, at least on that clock, 25 after 11. Okay, welcome back. We will resume our public hearing. I lost track of my item here. PHQ 1, Meritage Homes. Mr. Waters.
If I may just make a quick comment. Tyson Waters from the law firm of Fox McCluskey here on behalf of the contract purchaser, the applicant, Meritage. I did want to point out, in furtherance of some of the comments from staff, that your staff has found that this project is in compliance and meets all of your regulations, both the land development regulations and complies with the comprehensive plan. Oh, I apologize. You've got staff testimony, you've got the applicant's testimony, as well as the consultant's testimony, demonstrating on the record that we've met with all of your regulations and requirements. So we do think we've met the standards for an approval here. Just as important, if not more important, I think what this project does, it attempts to address what everyone agrees is a need in this county. The county needs attainable housing. The only way you're going to get attainable housing in this county is to do infill projects. And that's what this is. It's an infill project. And with any infill project, when you develop around existing residential developments or any developments whatsoever, you're automatically going to have an impact on it, whether it be traffic, whether it be with your neighbors, whether it be with just your surroundings in general. And what you've seen with this project in the past, as Mr. Crady pointed, projects have come forward 15 times plus or minus to try and do something with this piece of property. And each time, for a variety of reasons, those projects fail. Today you have a project that by all means really is straight zoning, but for the fact that based on public comment, there's a desire to do fee simple ownership as opposed to apartments or condominiums. If this project had come forward as an apartment or a condominium, it'd be a by right straight zoning. It's because the applicant wants to do fee simple ownership that we come into this front and rear setback issue, which requires us to do a PUD amendment or a plan unit development agreement. And another note that I think we've talked about, but we haven't really focused on, is what the public benefit is. It's a multimodal sidewalk from Salerno Road all the way to essentially Pinewood Elementary. And if you talk with school board representatives in the school district, I mean, that's a very dangerous pathway for kids, and they really try and focus them to use the little crossover. And this is going to help and encourage kids to do that. I also think what's very notable about this project, again, I think it fits nicely into the infill concept, but what's very notable, and part of the reason why all those other projects have failed, is because what's in the audience. You heard one person speak today in support of the project. You heard public comment via email and other communications in support of the project. You had 0 people come here today objecting to this project. And I think that's a testament to what's proposed today, as well as what the applicant's done, both working with the community, working with the neighboring property owners, as well as working with staff to try and get a project in front of you that the community supports. And I think that support is shown by the fact that you've got no one here objecting, including no one from the neighboring development. I think this is a need that the county has. You've got a project in front of you to try and address that need. And I would strongly ask that you consider approving this project and sending it to the next step, so hopefully this county can have obtainable housing so that these individuals that spoke today and made comments have some place to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Commissioner Jenkins, before you go, Ms. Story, what are the options if we don't get a second to move along? What are the options?
If the board is required to take some type of action today. Approval with conditions, denial, or to continue the public hearing. Was that your question?
Yep, that was what my question was. I'm just trying to
Right.
share with the board what's before us. Commissioner Jenkins?
I can't think of a project in the last 5.5 years I've been sitting up here I've struggled with more than this one. And it's really weird to struggle with a project that has nobody in the audience objecting to it, has support for it. And the only reason it's not a by right project is one of my favorite parts of it is the home ownership and the ability to build equity. The last time we talked about this, approving something in this corridor, I was kind of convinced myself I wasn't going to further that. But here we've got something that is in dire need in Martin County, is attainable housing for our workforce and young families. I really am not motivated to have another person from north of our county line move into our county, but I am very concerned with our own organic growth, with our children and our grandchildren, and we're not able to be competitive in the market to keep our own family. I've got 7 grandkids I'd love to see live in Martin County. And so I don't want to say reluctantly, but cautiously, I will second Commissioner Campy's motion.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, well, applicant, you've heard the comments by the commissioners. You know what our reservations are. They have to do with traffic. They have to do with compatibility. They have to do with density and intensity. And so I'm going to make a substitute motion. I think you can do better. I know you can do better. I'm going to make a substitute motion to continue this item.
I'm going to second Commissioner Hurd's motion because I think that
I have a motion and a second. No, it should be a substitute motion.
because what Mr. Waters just said, I was actually not going to be in favor of it before the break. Mr. Waters made some very good points, but I think that we could make this something that is even better for our community. So I will second that motion.
Okay, so for the purposes of trying to understand if that motion were to succeed and we were to continue, Ms. Story?
We would need a date certain.
Yep.
Or if we can't, decide on that, then that would require re-advertising, re-notification, which is just it's a procedural matter, not a legal issue. Just
Dante, I will. Just hold your jets, sit down.
so anyway, that would be if you, or it just
And do we-
continue it and to be re-advertised and scheduled at a later date.
And if it is to be continued with a date certain or a later date, or it's to be re-advertised, do we need to give the applicant direction as to what would be needed to be looked at in coming back? Because if we just continue it to a month from now, or 3 weeks from now, or whatever, to the next meeting, and there's no direction that comes back, we come back to the same conversation and nothing's changed. So my reaction to that is that there is the expectation that there's something different in density, there's something different in the project, there's something different that will move board members to think that it is more appropriate for the location than what we currently see. I'm just throwing out conversation for the sake of conversation. Dante, do you wish to come up, please?
Yes, Dante for Gary, again, for the record. I agree. Again, is there something specific that we need to address? And then, more importantly, I'm currently under contract right now, and my contract runs out at the end of the month. I would appreciate if we could have something that's time certain, and then to see if I am able to get an extension. Actually, I've gotten 2 extensions already, and I'm not real sure how the sellers, because there are 2 different sellers for the parcel, how they would react to that. But if there's anything specific that we would need to address, I certainly want to go ahead and entertain that and see if there's something that we can do. But if anything, if it could be date certain, I'll just have to roll the dice with the sellers to try to see if I can get one, and if I can't, then I just can't.
Okay, we understand. Thank you. Commissioner Campy?
I don't understand what's happening here. I made a motion, it was seconded, and then we had someone decide to make a substitute motion, fine, seconded. So all of a sudden, my motion doesn't count anymore. Now we're asking the applicant and staff for some nebulous concerns that are had with the project. Most of us had an opportunity to meet with the applicant. All of us had an opportunity to have a conversation with staff. So I don't understand. I'm not in the business of designing and developing these projects. I have an opinion like everybody else does, and since I'm elected, my opinion elevates to participate. We all agree, I would guess, that, this type of housing is necessary in the community. I thought what Mr. Waters said was eloquent and spot on. Obviously, you potentially lean someone in your direction. I don't know what could happen in the next month or 60 days or 90 days, where any of us, the five of us, have unique sets of opinions. That's apparent. So what are we going to tell you that's going to magically make this a better project? The concern is traffic, that I've heard repeatedly from my colleagues. Now, we're all sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because several years ago that was a concern that was addressed, and then when the board lost its majority at the time, a philosophical majority at the time, that project was stalled, canceled, and now it's got to wait to come back. Had that project stayed on track, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. We don't like projects that are built outside the urban service boundary. They're sprawl. We all talk about infill projects. Here is an infill project. With a couple of different tweaks to the size of the setbacks and things like that, they'd be allowed to come forward as rental properties. The Woodlands residents almost shockingly came forward, at least their official board did, with support of a project, because they're at least fair enough to understand that someone owns this property and people have property rights. The two owners that are trying to negotiate with the current applicant, they've done that in good faith. The market is, everybody used to say the market's on fire, the real estate market's on fire. It's not, it's radioactive. Take it from me, the market's radioactive. So there's no guarantee that when Meritage goes back to negotiate that those buyers, the sellers might be like, wait a second, the market has changed so dramatically in the last several months that the numbers that we had originally agreed to and were locked into in a contract, those numbers are out the window. We want new numbers. So now the project's killed. So I think kicking the can down the road without very specific requirements, which I don't believe are possible for us to give, nor should we be giving. I understand Commissioner Smith's concern that maybe the project could look better. There's time for that down the road, to say, I think it should have a porch, or should have a sundial in the front yard. I don't know. But that's not what I'm here to do today. I'm here to hear from staff, hear from the applicant, hear from the public, or not hear from the public, which, as Mr. Waters said, is telling. This is an infill project. So we're either going to make our decision today. They've spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to this point today. And I'm not a lawyer, but we have lawyers sitting right here. I don't know where this puts us, in some weird twilight zone that we didn't agree with staff's recommendation, that we're somehow, the five of us are going to individually meet with you all to decide this is what needs to happen in order for me to be a yes. I agree. I said it in my opening comments that I had in the past not been in favor of projects. But the room was filled with residents that were complaining about what was coming. If we leave ourselves to build half-acre, 1 acre, 2 acre properties, we are setting our future in Martin County to only be accommodating to the wealthy. If you are a working class person, doesn't make a difference if you're a first responder. If you're a working class person, if you're someone who grew up here and your family could be multi-generational here, we're not interested. If you wanted to move here from somewhere else and start a life, or if you were a senior citizen, we keep saying young people. I mentioned in my comments, if you're a senior citizen, you're stuck in your much larger home because it's less expensive to stay where you are than to try a new option. The city of Stewart, I think what they've done, I get it's controversial, artificially in my mind controversial that they've built these units. I think the only thing that they could probably be dinged on is that they built them sort of quickly in a row. They waited for a long time and then they stepped up and built, and now they're slowing down again. That's not a real strategy. It doesn't help young people or old people or working class people understand, can I live here or not? And the people that normally complain, someone built their house. I mean, I'm sticking my neck out on this project because I think there's a loud and clear demand for it. I live it in my own family, both on the senior side and on the young side. Are we allowing people to live here, or we're only going to have $1 million properties? Because half-acre home sites are going to be $1 million properties. So never mind the comment that there would be 300,000. I think young people would be thrilled to get a $300,000 opportunity. And if it looks fancy or doesn't look fancy on the outside, I don't know if that's an issue. So I'm concerned that we're heading down a slippery slope. We're forcing our staff and the applicant to head down a slippery slope. If, as our legal counsel told us, if you have legitimate reasons why you do not support this project today, tell us what they are. If not, I think what we're doing sets a terrible precedent that every applicant that comes forward will somehow not have an understanding of when you get to the decision day, you won't get a decision. Now, maybe they're interested in living to fight another day instead of potentially going down today, but I think what we're doing is wrong, and I don't like the process that if I make a motion and it's seconded, that we don't vote on that before we hear another motion. Thank you.
Thank you for all that. Okay, so, I'm sorry?
Nothing.
Okay, nothing. Okay, so we have a substitute motion on the floor. I, for one, I think if it's to be continued, I think we ought to give some direction. I think we ought to whether we want less units, more open space, more recreational space, more something in the plan. I don't know, but I think we need to give some sort of direction that they have some expectation of what they could come back. And if they meet that sort of direction, then for all the stuff that Commissioner Campy just had to say, we'll follow through with that. So, does the motion maker want to do a time certain for it to come back?
Well, the applicant said that their contract expires at the end of the month. We have one meeting 2 weeks from now. Does the applicant want to come back in 2 weeks? And in that case, are you just going to run the flag up the same pole?
Well,
or are you going to come back with?
You know, the challenging part is that, you know, coming back in 2 weeks, you know, what is that really going to do? And then the other thing is that what is it that I'm going to do during those 2 weeks, as far as like what is the direction? You know, the project itself is less than what the required or the limited density is. Is that accurate? Because it's like 6 units to the acre, which again, where it's blended, so we're less units. We have more open space. You know, the right-of-way for the expansion of Willoughby is being provided. You know, certainly I understand the, you know, as far as the architectural elements itself, but what else is it about the project? I think that, you know, our attorney clearly and eloquently stated, you know, that again, this is an infill project, and that where else would this type of project be built? So.
Okay, we got that. So you would, if it passes, you would come back in 2 weeks with something.
I'm sorry if
the substitute motion passes.
Sure, but I guess my question is that what would I, you know, again, so if we extended the date by 2 weeks, what is the point of that I would need to work on, as far as like what would be
I think, Dante, one of the driving conversations that I heard, at least from 2 commissioners with traffic, we heard your expert, we appreciate that, and I don't disagree with those numbers at all.
Sure.
But I think that there is an overwhelming issue in Martin County these days. Yes, Mr. Schilling.
Thank you, Commissioners. Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director. The turnaround time on, depending on what direction this goes in, would be difficult within 2 weeks. I would suggest that one of the items that was mentioned was architectural details and requirements. Those could be implemented in a condition as part of the PUD that would be binding as far as construction at final site plan.
Yeah, the problem we have with that, though, Paul, is, and in fairness, honestly, to the applicant, I mean, I could sit here and tell you what I'd like to see architecturally, but I don't have a playbook to offer to say, here are 20 different designs to go back and come with. I mean, I appreciate how that works, and I appreciate under the PUD, we could say, look, you've got to meet these architectural standards. What standards? I mean, I'm not asking you to answer, I'm just saying me rhetorically. I know what I'd like to see better than what's there, but I don't know that I don't know that I can point to something today to say, please go achieve this in the next 2 weeks and come back, and then we'll have reached success. I do think the traffic issue is an issue, and relative to adding 117 units to the mix, I think complicates it some for some commissioners. Obviously, that's what the commentary was today. So one thing, and I'm listening to what our commissioner said, Dante. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. My one suggestion would be that you come back with less units and try to figure out how that works. And that might be a suggestion that you look towards saying, okay, I hear you, it's too many, it creates too much traffic, regardless of what and Melissa, please, regardless of what the engineer says.
Sure.
The opinion of this board is that in this corridor, these two corridors between Salerno Cove and Willoughby, you got a school to the north, and this, I'm taking Commissioner Campy's statements now from last time. Every piece of that detail around that conversation from when this last came to us was, it's too much traffic, we got a school, we got this, we got that, I can't support this. It's a different product type today, and again, I think most of us have said we appreciate the idea of single-family ownership, which I think is a great idea. It just may be too much at one time. And again, that's what I'm hearing from folks up here. Commissioner Heatherington?
My main concern, Dante, is if you come back, that we address the traffic, because I know Melissa had talked about, peak traffic trips, 9 this, 9 that way, but every single week I'm getting calls from the neighbors surrounding, talking about having Salerno traffic calming and, investing money in. And I don't want to invest money in this when we're not sure if we're creating additional impacts. So that's not architectural. The main concern is the flow of traffic. And although I think Woodlands, is somewhat in favor because of the density transition, they are not going to be in favor whenever we start having more and more congestion. That's my main concern. So if you are looking for guidance from me, that's what I would like to see more of.
Well, if I may, so one of the things that I hope I understood it clearly is that on Salerno, if there's some potential to do some type of traffic calming, would that be something that would be acceptable? I mean, I would certainly, look into doing that. I've done it with several other projects, maybe, some speed tables, maybe, and I'll work with our planners to do that along with the staff to see what things that we can do to help that traffic calming, whether, again, there's several different applications that can be used, and again, working with, our development team and the staff, we would certainly be in favor of doing that.
I think if you would work with staff on that, I think that would be desirable for me to see coming back.
Sure. Okay. I'm sorry.
I echo.
Okay.
Before you go, please, did that answer your sort of general commentary, Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. I appreciate that we're having a dialogue to give you some type of direction, but to be honest, traffic calming and traffic volume are two different things. I don't know if everywhere's a speed and safety issue, but I think the concern is volume. So with that in mind, and then the concept of potentially, because I'm hearing what you're hearing, shaving units. Okay, you're at 117 units. What would be inappropriate for my colleagues? What would be inappropriate? Is it 100? So you just knocked 7, and would 17 less units make a dramatic difference in the traffic calculations? The other thing that I think my colleagues hopefully would take into consideration is the fact that when we speak of the 117, and we heard it, but just for briefly in your presentation, you can't look at the 117 units now under the current traffic congestion set of circumstances that exist at this very moment, because it's going to take you several years to build this project out. And where will the Cove Road, the new version of the Cove Road extension and expansion project be when you're actually built out? And where would the rest of it, the concept of what you were offering with the sidewalk, the 3,600 linear feet of sidewalk, well, it's across the street from an elementary school, and there's a missing link there. So if you're coming from Salerno, or you're coming and you make the right to head towards your elementary school, you're riding a bike. You go to the grass. So that forces you to then try to cross Willoughby, whether you're at the intersection or not, to now cross over to get to the same side. If people are not familiar with this area, the district, and I guess the county probably participated, built one of the very few pedestrian overpasses that we even have in Martin County. And the kids still refused to use it because they didn't want to go put the energy in, I guess, to go up and over. So you could see through the grass a path where everyone walked without going over it, in the middle of the street, not at an intersection. So then the school district put its long chain link fence to force the kids to go, and then they get to a point where there's a chain link fence. So now they assume that you would have to go. So what happens? Where the chain link fence ends is where the new path is. So the sidewalk thing, you say, well, is that a big deal? If you have school-aged children, or if you've had school-aged children, that's a huge deal. It's a missing link of sidewalk. I just don't know if my colleagues have given you enough direction to shoot this out of a cannon in 2 weeks. Now we're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the staff as though they had nothing else to be working on for you to be able to come forward in 2 weeks. Well, I'm just saying, we're heading down a weird path.
Okay, that's the 10th time.
I'm not going with you.
Ms. Story? Hang on, Ms. Lynn.
So, Commissioners, and I know that what the goal here is to assist in moving, potentially moving the project forward. I need to caution you about your more generic comments about traffic. Certainly traffic, and those have an objective criteria within our code, and I appreciate, I work here, I hear comments from residents, I'm aware of all that, but that is an objective standard within our code in terms of traffic. So the expectation that a particular project will, be required to somehow address that, I'm just cautioning you about those kinds of things. Certainly things in a PUD like a public benefit or increased open space or things like that, that may be more appropriately within the context of negotiations in a PUD agreement. That would be defensible, and that's.
So my suggestion, I'm Dante, I'm going to make a suggestion that if the substitute motion is to pass, it would probably behoove you and your planners to meet with the commissioners. Again, talk to them, those that want to talk to you, and discuss what issues might, in their mind, make this a better project. And we'll try for a time certain, we'll try to get back before, with all kind of consideration of your contractual agreements that you have with the landowners. And we'll see if we can come back in 2 weeks and have a continuance of a conversation. I just don't know how we're going to get past much where we are today. And honestly, there have been times in the past, and I'm not sure if they were PUDs or if they were straight zonings, there's a time to think about what's going on. And better than to force the decision of no today that may end up happening, and then you walk away with nothing. And I'm just, that's why I asked Ms. Story what our options were, what we had before us today, that doesn't benefit anybody. Yes, ma'am.
If I could just offer one more option to address Commissioner Hetherington's issues, food for thought. This is only master plan. If you wanted to make a third motion to suggest adding some traffic calming or working with county staff for some traffic calming along Salerno Road. It does have to come back before you for final site plan, and I am happy to work with staff, with Luke is standing right over there, for some potential traffic calming on Salerno Road. I'm not,
It's a reasonable request.
I'm just
No, it's a reasonable request.
making a suggestion.
I think under the circumstances and what has been talked about, I appreciate that, I do. I think people, the five of us probably need to collect our thoughts and understand where we'd like to try to help you get to. I think there's a willingness, Dante, to try to get you where you're going. I just think there's some unanswered stuff that we need to work through.
So if I may, can we approve today and then with some specific conditions that, again, we still have to come back?
Dante, the problem with approving today, this is the PUD
Sure.
and the change of zoning, which moves you or anybody else in the future in a direction that if you guys say, you know what, Martin County, we've had enough of this, we're walking away, the PUD exists and so does the change of zoning, correct? If we were to adopt it today?
It would run with the land?
Right. So the next person comes along, doesn't have to go through what you just went through. They've already gone through that step, and now they can go to the next hurdle that they want to go through.
Yeah, I completely and totally understand that. However, we're vested in this community. Again, this is the reason why I'm here today. I want to restore our reputation, and I want to show you that we can perform regardless of what's happened before in the past. The staff has been good to work with. They've been very diligent, as well as hopefully, we've been good to work with as well. I attend a lot of these public meetings, and I can tell you that, typically, and it's been said here earlier, that the room is filled, and I've been here when the room has been filled, and there's been a lot of folks speaking in opposition. There aren't any folks here today, for that. And again, and that means something to me personally because of the business that I'm in. And I want to work with the staff, and again, I want to be able to, leave our footprint here in Martin County, provide that attainable housing that is needed by all folks.
Okay, Donnie, we got it. We do. You're now starting to repeat multiple.
No, I understand completely, but,
Dante?
again, the limitations of my agreement with the property sellers, I'm not sure if I can get them to extend. I will do my best. But again, obviously, I want to be able to have an opportunity to, try to get this across the finish line per se. But again, if that's kind of where we're heading, again, what is it that I'm going to need to be focusing on so I can, make my attention, to those items?
My advice, Dante, I would stop there, and I would suggest that you come back, and those that had comments about what are issues that are important to them, what that might mean to you if I were in your shoes, is that I would try to accommodate those comments to the greatest of my ability. Sure. In that PUD agreement, and come back and say, Ms. Story, I've got 6 things I want to add to the PUD agreement. It may include traffic calming, it may include reducing some units, it may include all sorts of different things that you may glean from the 5 of us when you meet with us. I just don't think that's going to get accomplished today. And in short, I'm not, versus getting a no, and then there's no conversation to have. I think the continuance gives you still the option to meet with staff, meet with us, and come back with some options that you and your company can agree to. That gives you still an open window to try to get an approval.
Understood.
Okay.
And again, can it be, date certain? Because obviously I'm going to need to try to.
We will do our best, and staff will do its best. I hear what Paul's, and I know what else Paul has on his plate. There is a lot going on in this place.
Sure, I completely
And we are not
understand.
like overflowing with staff at the, to the point that what you see in this room is what's going to work on this stuff. So.
Understood. And again, they've been good to work with.
Right.
But again, and I don't want to put them in a bad, situation as
Dante?
well to ask for the date certain.
Dante, please, stop. We get it. We can go on for another half an hour, the same conversation, the same things can come out, and I don't think we're going to end up in a different place.
Understood.
Okay? So we have a substitute motion on the floor. that was to continue this to
I'll make it to April 19th because the applicant wants to have a discussion before the contract expires.
does the second agree to that?
Yes.
Okay, we have a second on that. Everybody understand what the motion is? Staff understands what we got ahead of us? Mr. Schilling?
Yes, we understand. That is an awfully condensed time frame, though.
Appreciate that.
Just,
That's what the applicant asked for.
yes, I agree.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All is opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioners Campy and Jenkins dissenting. We will break for lunch. We will be back at 1:30. We will see you back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.